Welcome to Lunchtime Live. Thank you for joining today. And I will tell you what this will be and what this won't be. This will not be entertaining. This will not be something that's super informative, but what this may possibly be for you is calming. So if I can offer you that, if I can offer that into the world, it's worth it to me. If you've been following along, I've been having a lot of, hello Anita, I've been having a lot of conscious conversations, meaning I have been pointing out a lot about what the mind does, what that ego voice in your head, that voice that sounds like your voice, that says these are your thoughts, this is what you need, what you want, what you think, what you feel. It says all those things to you, and it creates feelings, anxiety, frustration, depression, anger, sadness. It's a rainbow. Like there's a ton of emotions that it likes to stir up. And why does it do this? It feeds off of, it needs your attention, your engagement, so that it can fuel those things. So that's what a conscious conversation is. We are pointing out, we're being alert, we're being aware and conscious of what our mind is doing. Why? Why would we do that? Why do we care about that? Why would we listen to something such as the conscious conversations I've been putting on YouTube, and I also post them here on Instagram? Why do we want to know that? Because if we become more and more aware of that, hello Kelly, he's sneaking in for a bit, then hiding in the basement. You better get out of the basement. I totally lost my train of thought. What was I saying? It must not have been a train I needed to be on. Yeah, it's gone. It's not in there. Maybe it'll come back if we need to talk about it. Oh, suffering. That's why. That's why we do that. Hey, JSG. We do that to be able to manage and also come away from the thing that causes the suffering, which is this egoic voice in our head. Yesterday I did a talk on anxiety. Now that's a big one for a lot of people. If you follow the tidy mind process for any amount of time, you know about the tidy mind house and the rooms. And you have the future room. And the future room is where that anxiety resides, because it is talking about the future or what might happen or could happen. And yesterday in the audio we discussed how that is because the anxiety comes from an ego that is afraid. It's afraid of how it's going to look. It's going to look some way that it doesn't want to look. It's going to have to feel something that it doesn't want to feel. Or it's going to have to do something that it doesn't want to do. Those three things: look, feel, or do. It's going to have to do something that it really hates, it really resists, it really fights against. Or it's going to have to feel a painful emotion. Or actually, it just uses that to scare you, because you're the one, the consciousness doesn't want to feel those things. You kind of resist those feelings that it stirs up in you. Or it doesn't want to look or appear a certain way to other people. I would be embarrassed if people see me this way or think of me this way, because the ego has this identity of itself in a certain way. So look, feel, or do. And so the anxiety comes because it's producing all this fear, because it doesn't want to be diminished. Any three of those things happen. I have to do something, I have to feel something, I have to look a certain way, can diminish the ego and how it wants to be in life, how it wants to be seen in life, how it wants to feel in life, and how it wants to look, feel, and act. How it wants to act in life. It wants to be in control of all those things. I want to look like I got it all going on, like I'm a success, like I got it all together. I want to feel like I'm on top of the world, like I'm just, I have, I don't know, happiness and bliss, and I'm calm, I'm whatever it's wanting to appear to the world as feeling. And I want to do what I want to do. I don't want to do anything I don't want to do. No ego does, ever. I don't want to do those things I don't want to. I want to do whatever I want to do, whenever I want to do it, however I want to do it. That's the dream life of an ego. And if anything in your outside world threatens that, or threatens to take that away from it, oh, you're in for it. You're in for quite the roller coaster ride, because that thing is going to, hello to Bethlehem, Jesus City, oh, welcome and hello. That thing is going to throw a fit inside your head, because life, its dream life, is being threatened. This is how it's got this whole thing mapped out. This ego voice in your head, this drama king or drama queen has this whole thing mapped out in your head of how it's supposed to be. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how it's supposed to go. This is how life is supposed to go. For me to look like I got it all going on. This is how it's supposed to be. Except life is life. Life doesn't care about what your ego thinks. Life does not care about that voice in the head and what its idea of what life should be. It's not paying attention. I'm sorry. Like, life is just happening. Life is less dramatic than that. Life is just being. But this thing has big ideas on how it should be. And anything that goes against that, it's going to stir up emotion. Why? Because here you are as consciousness, and if you're practicing consciousness and practicing just being in life and with life and just being, and something happens in life that threatens this voice in the head, it's going to stir up emotion. Which, when you have emotion stirred up in your body, how does that feel? It's uncomfortable, right? And so that ego voice says, well, you shouldn't feel this way or you shouldn't feel that way. You better do something to get some relief in here, right? So it uses that emotion to get you to act out into the world, to prevent whatever, to resist whatever is actually happening in life. Oh, you better do something about that. Resist that. Prevent that. Try to control that. And it uses emotion to motivate you. Pain. It uses pain as a motivator. And that's the suffering that you're in. So how do you start to come away from that? Does anybody know? I'm going to give you all a second to answer that. How do you start to, what's the first step that you have to kind of grasp? And you tidy minders better know this because you've heard me say it. What do you have to do? And I'm going to give you a hint. What do you have to do to start to not be controlled by that thing? Think it and not listen. That's a good answer. Thank you. Thank you for that advice. Be the observer, not the thinker. Yes, exactly. Mel. Yes. Get some space between you and it, and say, I see you, not I am you. Sit with it, be with it. Yes, I see you. I see you. And I hear you. Now, a lot of us when we first realize that it just takes separating from it and observing it and realizing, growing in the awareness that we are not it. That all the stuff that it cares about, the consciousness that is us, is not concerned with that. It's not concerned. Like I said, nothing can be added to or taken away. Same today, forever. Yesterday, today, and forever. Always the same. Your consciousness, what you are, is always the same. So the only thing that can be destroyed is the ego. And the ego is super, super fragile. Anything and everything is a threat to it. Because it has to have every single condition just right to support it having its idea of how life should be. Every condition. And it's so unstable, right? Like the world going around is so it's like it's not going to it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't care about your ego's conditions. My battery's about to die. This may be a short one, okay? So it does not care about what your ego is saying. Life is not listening to it. I'm sorry. It's just being life. But this thing is fragile. So it needs every single condition to be right, or it's going to crack. And so to prevent that cracking, it yells at you, the consciousness inside your head, to protect it, defend me, don't let them talk to me that way, don't let them do this to me, you better don't, what are you, a doormat? You can't be a doormat. Like all of that language is what it says. I'm just waiting on the cat to knock everything over now. Is what it says to get you motivated through pain to protect this fragile thing. It's loud and annoying and obnoxious inside your head. But it is the truth of the ego is that it is super fragile, and anything and everything happening in life, and life is always changing, can destroy it and diminish it at any time. And usually does on a daily basis. Any little thing that it says that it doesn't like, or this is not the way my life is supposed to be, then it's going to start stirring up the emotion. And because you get uncomfortable in that emotion and you think, oh God, something must be wrong, I can't be feeling like this, you go out and you act into the world. Now, here is a good point for you before my phone dies and this is all over. I might run go get a charger. I'll see what I can do. No, I'm going to say this first. Hearing it does not lower your vibration. Just hearing the words that it is saying does not cause the emotional disturbance or lower your vibration. Hearing it and it speaking can't touch you really. You're just aware of it. There it is. There it's talking, it's fussing, it's like you better do something. It's like, okay. What then stirs the emotion, what gives it the power to lower your vibration or disturb your emotion, is when you engage with it. By believing what it is saying and thinking that it is you. Let me say it again. Just hearing the voice in your head, because you're going to become aware of it from listening to talks like this. You're going to start to become aware of that voice that sounds like your voice, that says it's you, uses the word I. You're going to become aware of it. And you're going to think, oh gosh, it's ruining everything. Because it's like, no. Just hearing it is not an issue. It's when you believe what it says as truth and you start freaking out with it, now your vibration is lowered and now your emotions are all stirred up and now you are in suffering. Take just 1 second to think about that while I go get a charger. I'll be right back. these things happen. We forget things sometimes. Okay. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. Okay, we are now plugged in. Don't die on this. I almost did. I had a super low battery, and I usually try to think of those things before I get started, and I forgot. But that's life. Let's use that as an example. Now, as I was walking to go get the charger to plug in the phone because I had forgotten, I could hear the voice in my head saying, "Oh my God, you've totally messed it up. This lunchtime live is the worst lunchtime live you've ever done. How you embarrassed," there's this fragile ego talking in my head, "how you've embarrassed me. You should have thought of that. And now people," it doesn't want to look a certain way, remember? Now people are going to think I'm blah, 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 XYZ, whatever. Right? This is a good example. And now I heard that. I heard it. But I did not believe it. Or I didn't, sometimes what it is saying, may be true. In that instance, that's like, it's true to it. It's true. It doesn't want to look bad in front of other people. That's true. A lot of times it lies, though. That may be true to it. That may be its truth, the ego's truth, this fragile little egg over here. It may be true to it. But I did not, as my consciousness, care about that at all. Okay, so let that be. I let that be. I let it be diminished if it's going to be diminished. Now, did that stir up any pain in me? No. I'm not suffering from that. Not one little bit. I don't care. Now, is that always the case when my ego says things? Can I always just hear what it's saying and afraid of and creating anxiety or trying to create anxiety over? Am I always able to not buy into that? No, not yet. I'm just getting stronger. Most of the time I am. But the pain happens, the suffering happens when you agree with it. So had I agreed, "Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, I'm so embarrassed that I didn't get, how could I do that? How could I be so dumb? How could I?" Now I'm suffering. But I didn't go there because I don't care. I no longer care about what the ego cares about. Now, an example I will give you of sometimes you'll notice a reaction, a huge reaction of the ego. And one happened to me just the other day. And it started talking about having to do something it didn't want to do. That was a strong one, and I could feel it very strongly. And I wanted to agree. I don't want to do that either. I don't want to, no. Like, I wanted to agree. And I was starting to engage with what it was saying. It was kind of baiting me a little bit. Why do I always have to? This isn't even what I should be having to do. And I shouldn't have to always do this. Why? Is it because I'm the woman? Like, is that why I'm having to do it? Like, I could. And there's a big collective pain. Big, huge collective pain of females, and there's collective groups. Females is one of them. People who have suffered maybe a lot physically, or maybe their egos have suffered a lot, or maybe they have been used, like maybe there's another one, fair and unfair. That's an ego playing field there. So there's the big, strong collective ego, and I could feel that female collective ego pop up in me that still was getting better, but we're reducing it a little at a time. Every time we're like, I'm not falling for that little shiny lure that you're throwing out, because I don't want to suffer. How do you get to the core of the root? I'm going to put a pin in that question. I like it, Kelly. I don't want to suffer. It's not worth it anymore. Well, it never was worth it. But I'm realizing now, I would rather have no drama, have a life that what my ego would call boring, uneventful, unfulfilling. Like this is the ego, this is not true. But to it, which is used to, oh my gosh, when I was under the control of it in high drama, it was a mess. I'll just go ahead and tell you, it was a mess. And I suffered a lot. I hurt a lot. The ego hurt a lot, and I hurt a lot with it, because I believed I was right there with it, agreeing with it. We were teammates. And it acted through me. It did things through me. It hurt other people through me. It made me think, I deserve more than this, and I should have this and that. Oh my gosh, the ride that I went on. Thank you so much for that badge. I went on quite the ride with this crazy thing. If you've listened to the white van analogy, that I took many road trip with this crazy thing. But as I was going back to my example of the other day, how it was saying, why do I could feel it. Why do I have to? And there was resistance, because I was waiting on the other person to get up and do this thing that my ego was saying they should. They're just sitting there waiting you out, because they think this is something that's the girl's job or the female's job. That was the voice in the head, and that's what it was saying. And I sat there for a minute, just observing, but feeling the pull, because part of me still cared about that. Part of that consciousness was still the pull to go into that and agree with that and go into resistance and conflict with that was so strong. So strong. And I did feel a little pain. It wasn't as severe, and it could have turned into a big drama, but it didn't. And so I got up, I swallowed my ego and all of its stories, and its pain story, and its collective female story, and its collective female pain. And I didn't give any thought to it. I got up, I did the thing, I sat back down. It was over with. It was done. It was a quick, simple thing. It was a nothing thing. It took no time, very little energy, very little effort. More energy and effort was spent on this going on in the head, resisting and fighting and standing, making its stance about. More energy was wasted there. More time was wasted there. More suffering could have been created there had I engaged with that. So I use that example not to brag on like how well I'm doing with my consciousness practice, but to let you know that as you practice, Kelly, I'm going to answer your question, but have a good day. I'm glad you joined when you could. As you're doing your practice, you will fall into that. But if you can acknowledge it and see that you did, you grow stronger because you had an awareness there. And every single time you do that and you see, oh, I really still identify, or I really still care about that thing. So what I've identified about mine is It's usually when I'm having to do things I don't want to do, spend my time. This is my time. This is mine. This is my time and energy, and I'm not spending it any way I don't want to. That's what my ego voice says. Fair and unfair. That's still a big one. Well, that's, that equal, Can you see how if you're controlled by the ego, the love you give, the care you give, the attention you give becomes very conditional. I'll only be not if you're into that equal exchange, which I've got old videos out there talking about this very thing. But if you're into that, if you still care about that and you still identify with that what you give other people, you're only going to be nice to them if they're nice to you back. You're only going to give them time and energy if they give you time and energy. What if life wants to move through you and wants you to be in their presence, to be with them, to help them come into consciousness? What if life wants to move you in that direction and you're still holding on to this identity over here with the ego about, well, I will only do that if they reciprocate, if they'll do that for me, if they'll be that for me. I'm not giving more than they give. That's ego. Consciousness, and if you want to get into Christ consciousness, there's no conditions. I'm not basing it off of your treatment of me, of your energy, what you will give to me or what you won't give to me. I base it off of, where's life moving me? If I'm present, if I'm conscious and not lost over here the ego on some crusade of fair and unfair and balanced and unbalanced and right and wrong and good and bad, and I'm not trying to protect. I am married, by the way. If you're not trying to protect that, then you're over here present and available for life to use you, to flow you. You're now part of, you've rejoined, you always are, but you don't know it because you're so sucked into the head. But you're available for life to then use you to touch other people who are lost in their ego, to help bring them back to consciousness so that they're not suffering. You can then be used by life. That's one of the things. I don't like talking about religion, but when I was in church, when I was doing, I was attending church, and in the anyway, I've totally I lost my train of thought. Maybe I wasn't supposed to say that. Oh, about being used. So when you talk about, you're being in church and you pray, use me, just use me to whatever you want me to do. And then you've got these beliefs and this resistance and all this dialogue and context about all these conditions about when you can be used and when you can't. Well, you're not available. If you're asking for, what I'm calling life, you're calling God, same difference. Like that stream of pure energy. If you're asking to be used by that and connected to that and in the stream of that and at the service of that, you have to be available, which means you have to be clear of all those conditions. You have to be clear of this ego. You can't be living in this, attached to this thing, calling the shots all the time and putting all the conditions, keeping the scorecard of life, of what you will do and what you won't do, with the attitude and the sassiness. Here's what I'll do, but here's what I won't do. All right, God, here's my list, okay? You can use me if, bullet points, if they appreciate it. You can use me if they're going to be grateful for my time and energy. You can use me if they're also going to give back to me and not take advantage of me. That's ego. That's not... Can you see Jesus being that? No. Jesus was available. Use me. He was used. He was life itself. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. I didn't mean to get religious, but that's Jesus. Jesus was consciousness, presence. I am here now, not lost in protecting this little fake self and suffering with it and having all these emotional dramas. I'm here now. Use me. What needs done? Where's the need? Where's the need? Who's unconscious? Take me to them. Put me in their presence of this crazy person. Most unconscious people are quite all over the place. He didn't care. There was no condition of, well, if they're fun to talk to, or if they can have deep conversations with me, then sure. If they can talk on my level, then sure, I'll go see them. No. That's the ego. Jesus didn't have no spiritual ego. Well, if they can understand what I'm saying from this high conscious space, then yeah, I'll go hang out with them. Jesus didn't say all that. Jesus was just Jesus, and yeah, Lovey is here, and we are just us. Your question, Kelly, was how do you get to the core or the root of it? And there's two different thoughts coming on that, and I hesitate to even use the word thought. But there's two different... Hey, Terry, how have you been? There's two different things I want to talk about. One is that question of, well, don't we need to get to, how do you get to the root of it? I need to know. I need to know why. I need to know why this is happening and what's at the bottom of it. What's the bottom of the fear? And let me tell you what it is. The very thing that's talking about that and asking that and saying all that is at the bottom of it. Hey, it's me. I'm the root. I don't want you to know that I'm the ego right now. I'm the root. I'm the root of it all. I don't want you to actually know that. So I'm going to point at everything and anything and everybody else around me. So that you don't look at me, the real problem, because I'm the ego. I want you to see the real problem. I want you to see the real root. The real root is always its fear of being diminished, of losing power, of losing control over you, of losing you to consciousness. If you wake up and you stop caring about all the stuff it cares about, right, wrong, good, bad, duality, if you want to go there, you stop caring about the duality and the conditions, it loses power over you. So it is the root. It is at the core of all the suffering emotionally. All the emotional suffering is at the core of it. Well, what about grief, Angie? What about grief? Now, there is and I'm not the expert on grief. I'm not going to pretend to be. But I do know that there's grieving from the conscious place. There's grief from the ego place. And if you're interested, November the 14th, I'm about to start a support group. And each week, it's a monthly subscription. Each week, we're going to go over, one week, we're going over weight loss. The next week, grief. The next week, life purpose. And the next week, anxiety and depression. So I'm just going to rotate those 4 subjects each week. So if you're interested in that, I'll be putting that up soon on social media and on my website. So there's conscious grief, and then there's the ego. Yes, they're big topics. The ego grief. Conscious grief. If we go back to the example of Jesus, who was Christ consciousness. He was consciousness itself. Like he embodied what it was like to be conscious and present. Even he wept when Lazarus died. The shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept. There was emotion there. There were tears there. There was the physical sadness. Or who knows? He could have been it could have been tears of joy. I don't know. Because Jesus knows that there is no death. So the consciousness lives on. Maybe the tears came from sad, I don't know. But I do know that there's a physical grief of the physical form or physical absence that the body does. And that's difficult to explain, but it's less about the emotion and what the mind is doing and more about that form no longer being in the awareness. And so there's a grief. Then there's the egoic grief, which is like 1,000 times more, makes the absence 1,000 times more painful than it has to be, because now it digs up the past. It digs up so much pain that doesn't have to be, because it's trying to hold power over you, and it's digging up an emotion. It knows it can use this loss for its benefit. It can feed off of that emotion because it feeds off of emotion. It can feed off this emotion forever, for as long as you will let it. It can keep this pain going for a very long time because it knows that this person mattered to you. It mattered. It mattered that they were here with you. For most of us, it matters a lot. And so it knows it's got you on something that you care about and that matters to you. And so it will use that. It will feed off that and fuel off that. And Kelly, you asked me the other day is, can you get stuck in the grief? And if you lack the awareness and consciousness and you have no space and you're like this with the ego mind, then yes, it can keep that going for as long as you will allow it. But you're actually not stuck, because all you have to do is just become aware of that fact. As soon as you become aware of that fact, you're like, oh, it's stirring it up by talking about this memory and that memory, or I missed it. Overwhelmed. I missed it. I'm sorry, I missed that comment. I was trying to read it before it scrolled up. So, I keep losing my train of thought today. It just goes out. That's okay. So, if you continue to, as it talks about, okay, well now, you have no one now. Like, you don't even, like, you used to go have Sunday dinner with all of your family, and now they're all gone. This is the ego. Now they're all gone, and you have no one, and then it points out it's got this painful, scary story of being alone, and what if something happens, and it just, and hearing it, remember, hearing it's not the problem. You're aware of it and you hear it. It can talk all it wants to. It's when you what? Somebody answer me. It's when you what? Hearing it's not the problem. What then causes the suffering? When you consciously what? Let's see who can tell me. Y'all got this. Hearing it's not the problem. Yes, exactly. Very good. It's when you believe what it says. You buy it. Hook, line, and sinker, whatever the saying is. You buy into what it says as the truth. Yes, Trish, you believe it. Don't feed into it. Right. Y'all are good. Y'all are listening, and I'm very, very happy about that. You believe it, and then, oh my gosh, you're right. I'm so alone. I'm so alone, and oh my gosh, oh, you're right. Oh my Lord, what am I gonna do? And now anxiety, now panic, now dread, now, and then it can lead to anything. Then, what's happened? This thing created a problem. And every time it creates a problem, what else does it create? Who can answer that one? I created a problem, and now I'm going to create a... Y'all got this. What's it going to create after it? It creates a problem for you. Now it's got you. You're feeling all these feelings. Anxiety. It creates a... If you got a problem, you need a what? There's you a hint. Yeah, the story. You buy into the story, and that creates the problem. And it creates chaos. It creates a problem, and then it's going to create a solution. Yes, JSG, very good. It tells you how to fix it. Yes, Mel. It tells you what to do to fix it. It tells you what to do to fix the problem that it created. So say it's told you that. You're so alone now, you'll never have anybody. This is happening and that's happening, and you're like, you're standing over here at first just hearing it, which isn't creating the pain. You're just like, there's that crazy thing. But then it'll say something you really, that gets you. Oh, you're right. Now you're here. Now you're in the pain. Now pain is happening. Pain is happening in your body. Anxiety, whatever. So then it'll say, well, here's what you do. Okay? Here's what you need to do. I don't know what solution it may have for you. Go find someone else. Go get friends. Go get people attached to someone else. Just stay in the bed all day. Well, just forget it. It ain't worth it any. You never know what kind of dialogue it's going to go into, and it can take you down to some really deep places. So here's the solution. Just stay in the bed. Just give up. Just give up on life. And you're already in now. You're already in the suffering. And if you're standing here, you're good. Once you believe in it, you're here. Now you're in the suffering, and that's really harder to. Now you're dealing with two things: the painful story and the pain that it's creating in your body, and it don't feel good. So you're more likely to do the solution that it presents to you. And if it's telling you to just get in the bed all day, you're going to get in the bed, and you may give up. And you'll lay there, and it's got you. And then you'll listen to something like this that says, hey, that thing is lying to you. This thing right here is lying to you and controlling you. And you may not believe it at first. You're like, yeah, but this pain, I feel the pain. The pain is real. And they'll be like, yes, the pain is real because this thing is feeding off of it. And it's keeping it going by talking to you while you're in the bed. How easy is it? Is it for it to get your full attention when you're just laying in the bed all day? It has no competition. Maybe the television, but then it'll even point out how, look at you. Look how meaningless, it's so mean. Look how meaningless your life is. You just lay here and you have nothing else but this TV. You just lay here and just watch this TV. You're not living life. Look at you. And then, what's it doing? It created a problem. It created a story, it created a problem, then it created a solution. And now what's it doing? It's creating another problem. You did what it said, and now it's creating another problem about you doing what it says. Now it's creating a problem about you being in the bed. And then it just keeps going. It's the cycle. It just keeps feeding and keeps feeding and keeps feeding. And it's loving it, and it's growing stronger the whole time. But all it takes is just for you to recognize, say this phrase. If you're resonating with this right now, and you're in the bed and it's got you, hey, it's okay. It is okay. It won't tell you that, but I'm telling you that it's okay. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're done for. It doesn't mean everything's ruined. It doesn't mean there's nothing left. No. It's okay to be where you are. Allow yourself to be where you are. Here's where you are. Guess what took you there? This voice in your head. Say to yourself, I am not that. If that's all you can remember, I am not that. I am not that voice talking to me right now. That's a small crack right here. That's a small little pull. And that's all you need to get this unraveling started. Unravel this ball of yarn you're tangled up in that's got you in the bed and controlling you. I'm not that. I'm not that voice. And then it'll say something else to you and you'll be like, oh, I'm not that. I'm not that. I'm not that. And then listen to more of these things. Maybe I don't resonate with you, but find somebody who does. Anybody who is talking about the things that the mind does, the ego voice does. The voice, the talker in the head. My favorite one is Eckhart Tolle. Tolle, I don't know. Eckhart, okay? I love him. He has saved, his life using him being available and present for life to use, has saved me, has pulled me, give me space enough. It untangled me. I was so tangled up. So miserable, suffering with it. Problem, solution, just back and forth, and I was just doing whatever it was saying, and sometimes it would contradict itself. I want this, but I got this now I don't want this, and now I need something else, and it was just like, oh my Lord, I am under the control of an insane thing. Yes, he calls it the pain body. Yes, the ego voice, that the pain body, and that's a very, very good label for it, because it is a body of pain. It creates pain, and then it sucks you into it, and it can just flare up out of nowhere. And it's okay if it takes you over. It takes you over. It's okay, as long as you can then have the awareness of, oh, it got me. I cared about whatever that was. I still care about that. I'm still attached to that a little too much. And it got me. And it knows what to get you with. Yeah, you start. It's just a loop you go around with it. So I'm going to wrap it up here. If you would like to listen to more of these talks, you can listen to the audios on YouTube at Tidy Mind, youtube.com/@tidymind. And there's a playlist called Keep Me Awake, and that's all the new stuff. That's all the conscious conversations, and less about when I was talking more from, anyway. Come to the conscious conversations. I encourage you to do the Keep Me Awake playlist. If you're in that bed, if it's got you down, even if you're not in the bed with it yet, like if it's got you down, it's got your full attention. And you're here. Thank you. And you're here. You've got a little crack in the door, okay? Now you need to feed that. So talks like this, talk like Eckhart, every day you need this medicine, every day. It's got you. And it's super strong and powerful, even though it's this little fragile thing that can be cracked by any little thing in the world going the way it thinks it shouldn't. You're much stronger. What you are can't be touched. You're so powerful. But it doesn't want you to know that at all. It doesn't want you to know you have a choice. It wants you to think that it is you. It wants to act out into the world as you. Thank you, JSG. My forever assistant. You're so good to me. Listen to things. Put this in so that it points out, so that you can know what's happening and not be asleep to it, not be lost to it, not be so taken over by it. And a little space and a little more space, and then it'll talk about something you care about, and that's just as important as the times when you're able to just hear it and not engage at all or react at all. The times when you do get sucked in, once you pop out of that, you've got something then. You've got a new awareness. You've learned something new about what it uses against you. You've got a new tool in your toolbox. You've got more power on your side. And then the next time that thing comes along, you're like, oh, there's that woman thing. There's that, you just want me to do that because I'm a woman, this and blah, 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 blah. And then when you hear it, you'll be more alert to it. Oh, you got me good with that one the last time. But I hear you. I hear you. And I'm not going off with you again. I'm not believing you. I'm not agreeing with you. I'm not going to get up on that movie theater stage and act this out with you. I'm just going to let you do the thing. I'm just going to go ahead, and you'll just hear it. Sit there and eat your popcorn. Oh, that's a drama. Ooh. And then it'll turn up the heat and try to get you even more. Yeah, you can't let people treat you like this. What are you? And people are just going to walk all over you and take advantage of you. Of me. People are going to walk all over me. No, they won't. That's not truth either. When you're making conscious conversations, you can see when an unconscious entity is, and you ignore them just like you ignore your own. Anyone in consciousness is not going to take advantage of another person. Taking advantage of someone comes from unconsciousness. And when you start to get real aware of what unconsciousness looks like, you can be like, that's not really them. They're just doing and saying that from unconsciousness. And then you can choose from that space. You can have your, what would Jesus do? Like, you can choose from that space. Well, life, what would you have me do here? It's not about what my ego wants me to do, because my ego would say, you shut them down, and you shut them down right now, and you let them know they're not going to treat you like this. That's what your ego would say to do. That's what your unconsciousness, that would be your unconscious reaction to their unconscious actions. Now that's karma. That's what karma is. Two unconsciousness is, I don't even know if that's a word, two unconscious people acting and reacting in this cycle. That's karma. That's a karmic cycle. But if you don't make your decisions on how you treat other people based off of how they treat you. I'm not doing that for that person. They're just using me and abusing me. Well, what would life have me do? What would consciousness have me do in this instance? Let's look at the higher picture of this. What's actually needed here? Not what my ego wants, but what's the need? What's the need? If I actually did this, what kind of example would that be? Would that draw them out of their unconsciousness then? It's more about that than what the ego says you should interact. This is way too long. I'm going now. I could talk all day long, and y'all know that. Thank you so much for joining me today and buying what you're selling. That is exactly right, Beth. So, thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for engaging. Thanks for having the answers to the questions. That's nice to know that it's something that we're all here grasping together, and that you're able to apply for yourself. Thank you, Trish. Thank you, JSG. Thank you to everyone. And I will see you again next Friday. Bye.